So for this video, I want to talk about the program data screen. All right. Now, when you first come to a program data screen in a new program, this is all you see. There are 5 different things in here. All right. So we have a tool data one, which if we go into that, we have tool 0. That is it. All right. If we go back to view data types and we hit work object, again, we have work object 1. That's it. We have clock 1, number. All right, we have 5 different registry numbers. And load data, we have 1 load 0. That's it. There is not a lot of data types that are available for you. And this is one of those things that annoys me. I'm like, you think there'd be a like show me the unused ones, right? And there is. It's just not like you think they just put a button down here for it. But no, you have to do view and then say all data types. There is enough gray bar here that they could have put more on there. And now this is showing you all the data types that are available to you. And there are a lot of them. All right. So as you can see here. So what I want you guys to do, and what we're going to talk about, is we're going to be using our jogging screen. And we're going to make sure we're in XY mode. Okay, we are. And I'm going to go back over to one of these blocks. That looks like I'm straight overhead, so I'm nowhere near it probably. Yeah, way, way out there. Wrong way, keep going. Too far, back it up. All right. And you're going to bring this guy over. And you're going to get it roughly centered. All right, it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. It really doesn't actually have to be anywhere near center. It could be off to the side for all I care, but go for the center. I think it makes the most sense. All right, and make sure you are actually basically touching. I mean, if not, just barely touching it. All right, I'm not saying plunge the whole thing in there, right? I'm saying, you can see I'm a little bit inside that block right now. I mean, just barely, but that's fine. It'll work for our purposes today. All right. So we've got our jogging screen open. We're looking at our blocks. We've got our pen position in one of the spots that we actually do care about. All right. So we're going to go back to that program data screen. And what we're going to create are called ROB targets. So robot targets. And I did talk about these in the last class. All right. We have to scroll down to go find them. These are all alphabetical listed, which is nice. I highly suggest the use of the double arrow instead of the single arrow. It just jumps you a whole screen at a time instead of one row at a time. So it makes your life a little bit easier. So, Rob target. All right, and we're going to go ahead and go new. And I'm going to call this block 1. I'm actually going to call it 1.11. Yeah, we'll call it 1.1. All right, and what that's telling me is this is, if we're going to call this corner 0, 0, this is block 1 in the vertical and 1 in the horizontal axis. Or the vertical, horizontal, the X and Y axis. Let's go with XY. All right, so that is 1.1. All right, this scope type is global, which is fine. All right. What we do want to probably make sure we do is we come down here to our coordinate system, and let's make sure we change that to pool. All right. And what that will do, remember, is make it for all of our coordinates are based off of this point down here instead of this point up here. All right. Remember, that is actually a very important difference to use. So make sure you do reference the right pool, all right, when you're doing this. In the long run for this assignment, it won't make that big of a difference, but it is definitely something that you want to contemplate. If we look at our XYZ right now, it's 135, 274, 214. If I take this back to base, that didn't change. Tool 0. How do I have... We should have another tool right now, but that's okay. I've never defined this tool as part of our problem. That's okay. Never mind. Just ignore what I just said. We're just going to base this off tool 0. So even though we're referencing this magical point up here in space, just assume it's going to be down here. It will all work out just fine. So we'll create a tool in another video, and we'll talk more about that. But anyway, so we have scope is global, storage. This is going to be a constant. This is not going to be a position we're going to be changing. Task is fine. Module is fine. Routine, none is fine. Dimension, none is fine, it's there. Now what we're going to do is going to go ahead with initial value. And you should notice that this is actually the coordinate where we currently are. All right. And again, we have X, Y, and Z, which tells us from the base point, the center of this robot, the bottom, all right, where we are. All right, and then if we scroll down, we have Q1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, remember that is telling us how we have to what way we want the end effector here rotated. So in our case right now, we want it to be this very specific rotation. All right, and one thing I should have checked before doing this, but we'll check that in a minute, is can we actually reach all of the block positions from this spot? All right, so we're gonna leave our cues alone right now. We're gonna say okay and okay. Does not like block 11 because I have a space in it. All right, so we have block 11, or as I'm calling it, 1, 1. All right, now we could manually come through here. All right, we could manually come through here. Go jogging. All right, and we could say, okay, now move straight back. And we can go back to program data and go new. And this will be not 2, 1, but 1, 2. And then if we look at our initial value, they have changed, which is great. Notice X is going down, nothing else is changing, which is, again, perfect. All right, and we could just repeat that over and over and over again. And you will notice that there is basically exactly, in my case, a 40 millimeter difference. All right, that is what these values are in, millimeters. All right, there is roughly a 40 millimeter difference between this point and that point, which is perfect. All right, these blocks are 30 millimeter squares, and I put a roughly, or not roughly, I think I moved these exactly, 10 millimeters of space right between them in both directions. All right. So you could manually go through and go, okay, I need to add another block. This is my new X. Add another block, and constantly just move the pen all around until you get to all those locations. That would work just fine. All right, no issues with that. However, to me, that is a lot of extra effort of having to constantly move this. Make sure you've moved it, the 40 millimeters. So we're at 95 now. Minus 40 should be 55. So if I go back to my jogging screen, nope, not there yet. Not there yet. Okay, now we're basically there. Now I was off by 0.2 millimeters basically here, which is another issue. Well, every time if you do it this way, you're always going to have slight differences unless you do manually go through and change things. However, we can also do is we can manually change this. So we're just going to say new. So 95. So we should be 40, 45.73. Again, we're going to call this block 1. 3. I go do initial value, and this should be 45.73, and I can go ahead and hit OK. And you can say OK again. And now we've got our new block here. Let me go ahead and edit this one. Now, when you do this is a good point. If you do a modify position, and you actually read this, it says the operation cannot be undone. Tap modify to change position, block 11. All right. This is not you modifying the position with typing a number on your keyboard or using the on-screen keyboard. This is actually grabbing the position of where the robot is in the world. So if I do this right now, look, we're at 135, right? If I do an edit modify, all of a sudden we're now at 55.57, and I'm like, oh, son of a... You can't undo. There is no way to go back. Now, if your company is smart, they have backups of all their files. So, you have the file that's on the robot, which is the one we're actually editing right now. We are editing live on the robot itself. So as long as your company is good, you should have backups, so then you should hopefully be able to go back and get that coordinate again if you've done something silly like this. If you don't know where it is, or you have to then go try to manually reprogram it, which may take a while. So what we really want to do is change the value. All right, and this should be 135. We said 0.73, right? Go ahead and hit OK. Boom. All right, so now we're exactly 45 millimeters down. So we're going to do it again. We'll just do a new block 14. Initial value. You're just going to come through and just repeat this and repeat this and repeat this. All right. And you're not only going to do it for the x-axis here, you're also going to go over and do it with the y-axis too. So by the end, you're going to have all 10 blocks, and you're going to have those positions known exactly. All right. Now, you may be going, why does having these all perfectly matter? All right. And the big key here is for stackability, repeatability, those types of things. All right. let's say that you wanted to build a nice little pyramid of blocks. And every time you picked it up, you didn't quite pick it up from the exact same location. You picked it up from the center once, from the right the next, the left the next. Every time you did that, when you would come drop that block off, they're not going to be perfectly towered. They're going to be off at a funky angle or something along those lines. So that is obviously a problem. Otherwise, or you have to change their drop-off locations every time. And this is just not the nicest thing in the world to have to deal with. For our purposes right now, this is also kind of a little redundant when we get farther into this class, because we'll have the program automatically calculate all these things for us. So all you have to do is tell it where 1 is, you tell it how many wide and how many long it is, and it will come automatically pick these up for you and do all the hard work, which is really quite nice. So, but anyway, we've got that. Let me just go ahead, cancel, edit. We're going to copy 1. We're going to make it 2-1, which is fine. And then this time we're going to change y, and we're going to, actually I don't know what number I need to change, or what I need to change to. Is it right? We are increasing, which is always good to find out. So we're increasing, so instead of 274, we're going to add 40. We're going to make that 314. All right, so now if I go to my jogging screen, I just realized that I've moved this up all the way on you guys, but that's okay. But if we come back to our jogging screen and we look at the robot, now we can use that little go to function, because now we have waypoints. So if I go ahead and say go to point 11, the robot will move there. I can go to point 21, it'll move over. If I go to point 13, 13's off. Interesting. What about 14? 14's good. 12 is good. What did I do to 13? I must not be able to add. So let's come back here. 135, 40. Oh, yep, this should have been 5, not 15. See? Always pays to check your work. All right, so now we can go ahead to, was it 13 that was the issue? Oh, no. I just screwed that one up. Anyway, you guys can see how we can go in here and change things. 35.
Block 13 be 55.
Yep. Yeah, 55, not 45. My next one was right, and I changed that. And I'm subtracting 50, and yeah, doesn't matter. Anyway, so now we can go ahead and check our points again, and we can see how they're all nice and lined up exactly where they're supposed to be. And this will just make your life easier for later on. And we did say, let me go ahead and minimize this. So I talked about how it doesn't really matter if we can't save our programs. If we come into the rapid screen and we go to rapid on the left hand side there, and then just keep expanding, and we want main module, here you'll see all of the targets that you created. All right, now I don't want you creating them this way. That's cheating. All right, you have to use the teach pendant. All right, I know it sucks, takes time, but still. And then here you can see it on the controller, how you can see all your constant robot targets at the top there and things like that. So it's worth doing it on the teach pendant, guys. It really is. It's worth learning how to do it. You're going to be doing it in the classroom. Believe me, it's just worth getting used to using the teach pendant for a lot of these things. There are many of the little changes that you'll make, which will be easier just to do on the teach pendant than it is to do it on the computer. So work with me there. So you could always, as I said, just copy this and paste it into Notepad to save this, even if you don't have a good enough license for saving. Oh, now I have. I can save my main module. Can't save this. So that's really annoying in my opinion. But anyway, so that is the program data. All right, and now if we go back to view data types and we just go to used, you'll notice that we now have robot targets. All right, so that one actually does exist now. We don't have to do the whole, view all instead of just used. It does show up there once we start using it. So that is kind of your program data. The menu on the teach pendant. It is a very useful tool that you can come through and tweak things kind of nicely without having to go into your specific program and then come up here. And I hate how you can't see all this at once, and it to me just becomes really annoying. So yeah, that is the program data section of the teach pendant.